What's up, everyone? Welcome back to an episode of Under Further Review. After a few weeks, we're back. We're in the thick of things for the NFL draft. The combine has passed. We're going through pro days this week. There's a lot of pro days happening at the moment. I know Miami had theirs on Monday. A lot of big time schools will be having it throughout the week, and we'll be keeping an eye on that, seeing what the results come back, because that is big for draft orders, judging what sleepers will rise in the draft, seeing who will end up in the first round. And today, what I want to accomplish is talk about a few players and I'll do this leading up to the draft, talk about a few players that I've been keeping my eye on, a few players that may be getting a lot of attention, a few players that might be not getting enough attention. But regardless, it's going to be a group of 4 to 6 players every single week. That's how I'm going to start off the episode. We'll give a little bit of an analyst behind them, a scouting report, if you will. A lot of these players are ones that I was able to see with my own eyes during the regular season, the college football season, and even into the playoffs too. So definitely stick around. We have a few segments later on in this episode. I'm going to be giving a player that I think could be rising into the first round. I will also be giving a player that I believe people are not talking about enough. Like, that's one of the two of the segments that will be implementing. I have a lot of ideas in my sleeve. It's going to lead us up all the way up until the NFL draft, which is about a month away now. So exciting times, exciting point in the year. Probably, I don't know, what, the second best day of the year for NFL football, behind the Super Bowl, of course, which is just the ultimate party, the ultimate get together for everyone. Everybody watches that game, whether it's for, the actual football being played, the halftime show, the commercials. But the NFL draft, this is the true football day, because you have to be a fan of your team to be following who they might be drafting, looking at mock drafts, keeping an eye on players, just knowing some of these college players' names as they, go through all the events that lead up to the draft day to help build their stock ultimately. But yeah, a lot of good guests lined up. I'm excited to get the ball rolling with that. So we'll be having other people joining the discussion, giving their input on players. And it's not necessarily just, we had Matt Miller on a few weeks ago. It's not necessarily someone like Matt Miller who covers the NFL draft as a whole, and that was excellent. It was so much fun being able to talk about his journey and some of the players he's keeping an eye on. But also, it might be, team specific reporters, and especially teams that are earlier in the NFL draft, probably picks 1 through, I would say, 10, 1 through 15. And so we'll really see where they're keeping their eyes, who they might pick early, all that good stuff. But also players, just keep in mind, college football season, while it's a few months away, spring ball has started. So we're not just going to push college football to the side because it's NFL draft season. While this episode, we're accomplishing just the NFL draft. Other episodes, we might start different thoughts and segments about the fall season for 2026, because there's a lot of excitement. The transfer portal told us a lot about roster foundation and movement, and how these teams are building up for the 2026 season. So we will definitely be concentrating on that, and it won't necessarily take a back seat to the NFL drafts. We'll be talking about it as early as next week, probably. But right now, the opening segment, the opening thought, the opening opinion, I guess you could say, is NFL draft and some of these players that I was talking about. I have talked about this first player. Actually, before I get into that, I'm going to throw my usual endorsement out there, because your support goes a long way. It helps us grow. And, we're pretty active on several accounts. So join the discussion. If you like this show, you'll see short clips throughout the week. So I would say Instagram is a big follow, because that's one of the apps we're most active on. So add Under Further Review on there. Of course, we post all of our episodes plus short clips and reels on our YouTube page, which is also at Under Further Review. And then we're also on TikTok. So join along on TikTok if that's your cup of tea, cup of Joe over there. But yeah, let's start the discussion. Jeremiyah Love, a lot of rumors around his name saying that he could go in the top 5. And traditionally, people don't like running backs going in the top 5, but they can be franchise builders. They can really help a young quarterback. And we know there's teams, not necessarily the Raiders, because Fernando Mendoza is going to be picked number 1, but like a team like the Tennessee Titans, who have Robert Saleh as their new head coach, but also have Cam Ward as their quarterback. And rookie season, Cam Ward, while he showed glimpse of being a capable starter in the NFL. It was inconsistent. It was an up and down season. It was a little rocky at times, but with an extra weapon thrown in there, they had a nice free agency. They brought in a target, a key target like Wandell Robinson. You bring in Love, all of a sudden you have a star running back who could potentially be a premier guy, a pro bowler for the next 10 years, maybe longer. I know, running backs, it's tough because they take the brunt of the hits. It's not like the wide receiver position where a lot of times they can fall or run out of bounds. A lot of times these guys are going right up the middle, dive plays, and falling in the piles and stuff like that. So, but Jeremiah Love, he's a home run threat every time he touches the ball. That was my favorite thing about him at Notre Dame is his ability to take the handoff from 50, 60, 70 yards away, and in a blink of the eye, he was in the end zone. So I don't know. Like last season, I didn't really see him as a tire down the opposing defense type of running back. He was more of, you give him an open hole, he's going to take advantage of that. He's gone. Just one tiny mistake, and using that speed that he has, he's able to break away from the defenses. But he's a true three down back. So not only can he run the ball, he also has the ability to catch out of the backfield, which he's above average there. And his blocking is actually pretty solid for a running back as well. So you throw him out there, you can expect him to be out there for a majority of the game, even though he did share the backfield. And a lot of people are saying the number 2 running back is out of Notre Dame too in this NFL draft. So he did share the backfield with a very talented running back last season. So I think that chipped away at some of his carries. But make no mistake, like this was the best running back in college football last season. He was the Doak Walker Award winner last season. He was All American. Nobody even argued it. No one blinked the eye when he made the All American team, and also a Heisman Trophy finalist. It was as good of a season as you could expect out of somebody coming back with such high expectations because he truly had a great sophomore season, and he came back last season. And I know, what was he, above 1,300 yards probably, 2,500 rushing yards around the past 2 seasons. Just big time talent. Any team that gets him, they will be lucky to receive him because he's the type of impact player that changes your team instantly, like the first season. And I know a lot of people are going to resort back to Ashton Genty last season because what was that Raiders offense? It was probably one of the worst in the NFL. They didn't have much blocking on the offensive line. Didn't really have targets on the outside, wide receivers. Bowers was injured for a large portion of the season, so it was really a one-man show. Genty was the focus for defenses, and if you look at like yards after carry, he's still was up there. He was still fighting for every inch. And I think by the end of the season, he got better. So to me, it would be a little different with the Titans. You have Brian Dable, who is, just coming off a stint with the Giants. I don't know how people view his time with the Giants. I know if you ask Giants fans, they're probably saying it was not too successful, maybe a little bit of a failure. But regardless, I still think he has a pretty good image across the NFL. He was very good with the Buffalo Bills as the offensive coordinator. A lot of people tap him as the person who really opened up the playbook for Josh Allen, really helped him take the appropriate steps as a signal caller for the Buffalo Bills or get used to the NFL. He took a huge step under Brian Dable's time there. So what can he do as an offensive coordinator? Now that we're taking the weight of the entire team off of Brian Dable's shoulders, if you just give him Cam Ward, who there was reports out there that he liked him the most last year. He tried to trade into that number 1 pick. And I know that it all worked out for both teams. The Titans got Cam Ward. They didn't end up trading back. The Giants ended up getting Dart, and saw the pictures, you saw the videos. It seemed like Brian Dable was very high on Jackson Dart. So I think it worked out for both teams. But now he gets to go from one rookie quarterback last season in Dart to another one in Cam Ward. And now it's his sophomore season. And we might see the Caleb Ward effect where, Caleb Ward with the Bears during his rookie season with that coaching staff, he was watching film by himself. There was rumors, and he just couldn't seem to put it together and was overthrowing targets, and his timing was off and took a lot of sacks. And a lot of people question, is he actually the number 1 pick? And I know it was early, so you hate to put that type of target on someone's back, but it was there in my opinion. And then we go into this season and it was like a prove it to me season. Now you have the offensive coordinator from the Detroit Lions, a high power, high scoring Detroit offense. And he was able to come over and, you know, Caleb Williams was certainly in the MVP conversation throughout the season. And I just expect him to get better and better. So that's the point we're at. And Cam Ward's going to be the same way. But imagine a weapon like Jeremiah Love. The Bears did such a good job building around Caleb Williams, giving him some targets, giving him weapons on that offense. That they built up the offensive line to give him protection. Now it's your turn, Titans. Now you really have to pick, like, what do I value? Because you are going to have the ability to get a Sonny Styles type, a Bailey type. If the Jets don't pick Arbel Reese, which I don't see happening, that could happen as well. He could fall to the Titans. Now, if Arbel Reese falls, maybe you start thinking about defense there. But when you have a young quarterback and it's very early in his career, like, confidence is the biggest thing in my opinion, because let's go back to Caleb Williams. He has another, a sophomore campaign, another season where he kind of slumps through it. Now, like, the self-esteem, the confidence isn't there, and you're trying to build that up, and now you're going into year 3. It just feels like a Daniel Jones type story, and we know how Daniel Jones's career has been. I was very happy to see him have success this season with the Indianapolis Colts before his injury, but it's just been a bouncy, like, up and down career for Daniel Jones, and it was more lows than highs for him, and you hope that a young quarterback doesn't experience that, but, you know, 2 seasons the way that, Caleb Williams' first season or rookie season was, it could be the path that Cam Ward goes down if they don't fix it quick and give him some targets. And it does look like they made an emphasis on that. There was a big focus on bringing them in. Some people believe they overpaid Wan'Dale Robinson. Now's your chance to get a franchise guy. You got your franchise quarterback. Give him his Scottie Pippen. He can go be the Michael Jordan, because that's what you want out of your quarterback. You're not winning a Super Bowl these days without a star quarterback, but give him his Scottie Pippen, his Dennis Rodman, and Jeremiah Love accomplishes that. It's going to be to the point where people are going to say, like, who's the face of the Titans? That's how high I am on him. Like, we're not just talking Ashton Genty good. We're talking, like, good enough to be like a Saquon Barkley type, good enough to be a Bijan Robinson type. That's what Jeremiah loved. That's the type of hype I'm seeing around him. And what we saw it in college, averaged 6.9 yards per carry, and there was, legit receiving production from him. He has a high floor and a high ceiling for an offensive piece. So let's talk a little more about him. Expected speed was around 4.3 speed range I saw for the combine. I don't know if he ran at the combine. Somebody's going to have to let me know in the comments if he ran. I should have did my homework on that. But he's fast. He's light. He's lightning. He has a track background. He was a sprinter. Just a big chunk player. You give him the ball, you don't really expect him to go down in the backfield. You're probably expecting, I don't know, 4+ yards a carry, 5 yards. And what's that do to a defense? It's very defeating when, excuse me, it's very defeating when you go from a defense that can stop a running game, gives up a yard, 2 yards per carry, maybe even 3, to a defense that's given up 4, 5, 6 every single play. It's tough because those are the type of that's the type of downhill running that really tires out a defense and really kind of defeats a defense when they can't seem to find a solution to a running back like Jeremiah Love. So he can turn those 5-yard plays as the game goes on into 60-yard plays, because it could be the first half. A lot of times Notre Dame would be like, hey, like, split production between our 2 running backs. Maybe we'll focus on Carr and the passing game a little bit in the first half. And, you know, some play in the second half, they'll hand off to Jeremiah Love, and could be like 10th carry of the game, and he's breaking for 60 yards. The production and the efficiency was there at Notre Dame. So he had 1,372 rushing yards last season, 18 touchdowns. By far one of the best, if not, it was the best running back season last season. And we're talking, again, I'm going to bring up split carries, split production in the backfield. He did that. He had 18 touchdowns, nearly 2,500 yards, 36 touchdowns over the last 2 seasons. And his pros are he forces a lot of missed tackles and creates yards after contact. So while he's elusive, while he's fast, he can still power through and continue running downhill and continue forward. A lot of people just straight up say he dominated college football, and he's effective in all schemes. He can be effective in zone schemes. He can be effective in gap power schemes. So you leave him out there, give him the playbook, the entire playbook, let him learn it, and he's going to do wonders for your offense. And he fits any system, in my opinion. But again, it's the Saquon Bijan Robinson effect because Saquon Barkley, Giants had second, third pick overall, and then Bijan Robinson, what was it, the eighth overall for the Falcons? You're probably going to see him in between those that range, that second to eighth. Certainly not second to the Jets yet. They just put a lot of money towards, or they're going to put a lot of money towards Brees Hall. I forget the exact report. I don't think they signed him long term yet, but I think maybe franchise tag. But he's back next year regardless for the Jets. I know that was the big story. So they're investing in Brees Hall. I don't see them going for running back, but as early as the third pick, that could be it. We got the Cardinals, we got the Titans at 4, Giants. There's been a lot of reports that the Giants love Jeremiah love Jeremiah love. But yeah, there's a lot of teams that I know if he falls to the Chiefs, they're definitely going to scoop him up. And the reports out there are even with signing Kenneth Walker, Super Bowl champ, I think Super Bowl MVP even, Kenneth Walker, they'll still go after Love if he's there. So they're very high on Jeremiah Love. Um, he's just great. He's great for rebuilding teams. He's great for a team like the Chiefs who are retooling, not so much rebuilding. They just gave an extension to Kelsey. That tells me that they believe that they can compete as early as next season. I know Mahomes is going to be starting the season on the IL or the injured reserve, I should say, but I think in baseball terms, but regardless, if he returns and they can win a few ball games, the Chiefs could be very productive. But it's just such a safe pick. He's going to help the quarterback. He's going to help that offensive line. He just helps everybody. He opens up the passing game. So Wandell Robinson and other guys should they should benefit from that. So I'm a big fan of Jeremiah Love. I wanted to go through some of his big games last year because some of these are just like eye opening stats for one game production. So I would say his best game was his 228-yard rushing game against USC. It was one of the biggest games of the season for Notre Dame. The playoffs were on the line because, mind you, they did lose the first 2 games of the season. So they lost to Miami, who eventually went to the national championship game. They were the runners up. They lost to Indiana there, and then they also lost a heartbreaking game to Texas A&M where a botched extra point lost them the game, and then Marcel Reed ends up, going down the field and ultimately winning the game. Yeah, that USC game, a lot was on the line because, mind you, USC was still in the hunt for a playoff until the very end. I think USC was even still thinking about a playoff run as late as the Oregon game. So, they had things figured out last season that they were like right on the cusp there. But 228 yards rushing, 9.5 yards per carry, which is just unreal. A touchdown, 5 receptions. So we talk about him being that 3-down back, being able to catch the ball out of the backfield, which was nice for Carr, who was a first year starter. I have high hopes for him. We'll get into Carr as the offseason goes on because that's one of the quarterbacks that I truly, I love. I really do enjoy watching Carr play. And it's not because he's former Michigan head coach Lloyd Carr, I think grandson. He's got that Michigan blood in him, and his brother's currently at Michigan universities. But it's because he's just a fun watch on the field. But that was definitely his signature game, a legit opponent. I know in the past it's been more USC offense, not so much their defense that's been the talk of the town out in California. But I think the defense did improve last year. And I actually think their defensive coordinator went to Penn State. I'll have to look that up, but I feel like he went to Penn State. He showed all his skill sets in that game. The next one, and this one's been just like on my mind ever since I saw the stat line. I didn't watch this game because I knew it was going to be a little bit of a blowout. Syracuse had a bit down year. There was other games on that day that I want to watch. And that was even, I think, a Saturday where there weren't like fantastic games. It wasn't like one of those Saturdays where it was like, drop everything you're doing. Don't have any weddings scheduled for this day. Don't have parties, anything. Like, make sure you're watching every game. It's top 25 showdown after top 25 showdown. That it was one of those days. It was like, you're lucky if you find a game that you're sticking to that channel. You know, it was like one of those Saturdays where you're flicking back and forth. Uh, yeah, when I saw the stat line, I had to look twice because it was 8 carries for 171 yards, and he had 3 touchdowns. And by the time it was halftime, I don't even think they had much use for Love anymore. You know, you got to rest the man up. They were in a playoff run. They were trying to get it into the playoffs. You know, they eventually didn't, and I'm not going to talk too much about that because I think Notre Dame fans have been through enough already between not getting into the playoff, their AD kind of getting upset and saying some comments like the ACC and stuff like that, and then sitting out the bowl game. It was just a lot for them. What a roller coaster. Sorry, Fighting Irish fans. Boston College, another nice game. Down year for Boston College, too. So Notre Dame could certainly schedule a little better, but I feel like they play a lot of traditional teams that, the ones that you're used to seeing, like certain, yeah, USC all the time. But that's another thing that popped up. The rival between Notre Dame and USC is going to be no more just because what is it, amount of games they need on the schedule, like conference games. I don't know how that impacts Notre Dame. I'll have to look into that. Against Boston College, he had 136 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. His longest run was 94 yards. So that home run threat that we talk about, the excitement behind Jeremiyah Love, right there, that's the excitement. So 94-yard speed, that's top five stuff right there. Pittsburgh too. I remember this game. I think College Game Day was on campus. People hyped it up, top 25 showdown. I don't think it was much of a showdown. And Pitt was in the ACC, I guess, shuffle until the end of the season, that final weekend. But I don't know. Like, they were another Duke. Even if they got into the ACC championship game and won, I don't think the committee even lets them in. They just didn't have a good enough of a resume. Their roster didn't scream the excitement that you really want to see. Not that Tulane and JMU did. Um, they play in a top-notch. It's the Big Ten, it's the SEC, and then it's whoever else fighting for that third spot. And ACC always has, a conversation. And next year they will too. Virginia Tech, there under James Franklin, they should be a little better. Miami, of course, coming off their runner-up. A few other teams. Georgia Tech was really good this year. There was a lot of teams in the thick of things this season. But yeah, against Pittsburgh, 147 rushing yards, 167 total yards, 25 touches. So a lot of times it was more closer to the Syracuse game where I know like 8 touches is a little bit on the low side, but I would look at it and it'd be like 11 carries, 12 carries, something like that. This one, 25 touches, that they really hung their hat on Jeremiyah Love's production and his ability and just said, take it away. That was like the grinded out, gritty game that you really want to see from your running back. And that's another way of saying, hey, like this could translate over to the NFL. And I think it matters. It shows that he can handle volume for carries. Against Navy, 94 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. I think Navy's starting quarterback was out. By the way, go back to our episode catalog. Blake Horvath, he was actually on the show, so that was a cool interview. And against Arkansas, we're not going to get into yardage, but he had 4 touchdowns. Even in Texas A&M game, I remember watching him and being like, oh, he's actually doing really well. 94 rushing yards, 53 receiving, 2 touchdowns. So even in a loss, he made a big impact. He's about 6 foot, ranges from like that 212 to 215 weight. Um, Combine results, actually, my research actually said he had a 4.36. I don't know if that was combine or a pro day or something. It's comparable to Jameer Gibbs. Some big names we're talking about right there. The burst, the balance, the body control, the receiving ability, all reasons why you'll love him. I can't think of too many reasons why you wouldn't like Jeremiyah Love. And I'm looking more, it looked like he maybe skipped the pro day. I could be wrong there, but he's got it all. Size, speed is elite. He's fluid. So, yeah, I would say he's definitely somebody you want to look at. I'm going to say the next guy's name wrong, so don't laugh at me. I told myself before this episode started recording that I was going to look at YouTube and get his name right. Watched a lot of Penn State football. I'm a Big Ten fanatic. Grew up a Michigan fan. But I just like watching good football. I always thought the Big Ten brought the defense. Things change, of course, as new teams enter the conference and new coaches take over. So it's not quite like the old Big Ten conference that I grew up with, but still have love for the Big Ten. Still cheer for some teams when they make full season. I've always had love for like a Penn State when they weren't playing Michigan. And I know that's not the typical Michigan response because people say it's quote unquote a rival game, but yeah, and they're closer to my hometown than Michigan even is. Iowa I enjoyed just because of Kirk Ferentz. Yeah, just a lot of cool teams. I like Northwestern's current head coach. I hope they do a lot of great things. But yeah, the guard who's been rising up the boards, Vega, is it Ione? Ione or something like that. Should know what I'm talking about by now, but what do we see from his tape? So, looking at my notes, it's dominant, it's clean. He's powerful. Your quarterback can trust they're not going to get too many pressures. He's somebody who can really help the center with double teams, but he can also take on, just about anyone on the defensive line. Mm, Allowed almost no pressures or sacks in 2025. Known for being an elite anchor and pass protection technique. So very valuable in the or the pass game. And as we may know by now, that's what the NFL has turned into. It's a pass dominant league. So that's great to know. He's a rare combo where he shows power, balance, and control. 6'4", around 320. I seen labels of Mack truck power. So that's pretty cool to see. Generates serious force in the run game and on poles. So we talked about the pass game. That seems to be like his dominant trait. That seems to be his favorable, I guess, strength in what he brings to the table, his profile. But he can also influence a run game. It sounds like he's very quick during the pull. He's able to meet the linebacker or whoever else, the safety, when he's pulling, and he can really open it up for a running back. He's just a tone setter. He also has high IQ. He had over 2,300 career snaps across both guard spots. Versatile, can bounce back and forth. A strong awareness and pass protection. We already talked about that, but also is disciplined. Something that could really kill a offense is penalties. Um, my local team's the Giants. I remember last year that Cowboys drive where the one offensive lineman had 4 or 5 penalties in I think the opening drive, and it was just like, how do you bounce back from that? I don't even know if they scored a touchdown that drive. I think they got like a field goal. So it really ruined that drive. And you see it year in and year out where guys are, heavily penalized and it's just ruining drives. They don't get points or they're getting pushed back. It's just a lot. It's a pretty weak offensive line class. Not gonna lie. I have actually been finding a lot of offensive tackles I enjoy. I don't love too many offensive guards. So if this is the guy that you want, and I've seen people say, Quentin Nelson, they put him in that category. Now I remember Quentin Nelson's draft. Everybody was like Sam Darnold. Let's get Saquon Barkley. There was all the other quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield was obviously drafted first, and Josh Allen was in that draft, and Josh Rosen even. But yeah, Quentin Nelson turned out to probably be one of the better players of that group, if not the best. And just he's another tone setter. He's really the identity of that Colts offense. As much as the face of the offense is always going to be at this point Jonathan Taylor, but they feed off of when Quentin Nelson's on that field, and that offensive line is way better because of the leadership of Quentin Nelson. So if you want a guy who can make a 10-year career, if not longer, Vega's going to be the guy that you want. He's a safe pick. He's a long-term option. He's an immediate starter. He's just going to make an impact, that 10-year potential. Bottom line, you're getting a dog on the offensive line. Let's talk Ty Simpson. I really wanted to talk Ty Simpson after today. So today was when Dan Orlovsky, I think he went on Pat McAfee's show, and I love Dan Orlovsky, so this is not me saying I'm using the word love a lot. I guess it feels like Valentine's Day or something. I need to find a new word. I really enjoy Dan Orlovsky, though. He actually, I had a podcast back in the day, and he came on, and it was right before he joined ESPN. It was shortly after he retired from football, and he was looking to make a media career. I think I even had him on for like during draft season. So maybe I talked about some off season moves and draft picks, but I can't find the interview anywhere, or I would post it on my YouTube channel. But yeah, and, Ty Simpson, Dan Orlovsky went on Pat McAfee's show today and pretty much said Ty Simpson has a better tape than Fernando Mendoza, and he believes it. And a thing that he did point out is, I think before other people got on the Jackson Dart train, he was really liking Jackson Dart's tape. And he said someone else from, I think it was Jaden Daniels, he said he was high on from the previous draft. And if you ask me and a lot of other people, I would think that Jaden Daniels probably had the best rookie season out of that rookie class, that very talented rookie class. So yeah, Ty Simpson's been rolling around in my mind because when he started the season, I had wonderful things to say about him. I loved that he limited the mistakes. I loved the decision making and the quick decision making, but for some reason that went away as the season progressed. Maybe not even the season progressed. It was like the last few games, like when it mattered, just more interceptions, more turnovers, not as quick of a release, some botched calls. So it was just a lot of stuff that you would expect out of someone who was starting for the first season. And maybe we didn't see this early on. They did play Florida State, but Florida State eventually showed their true colors. The excitement was there the first few weeks, and then eventually they ended up going, what, like 500. But at the time, we thought like Florida State beat Alabama early in the season. Ty Simpson didn't look bad. He wasn't the reason they lost. And we jumped on the hype train for Florida State, and we really ran with it. We thought this was like playoff caliber team returning, and it didn't end up being that way. And you know, when you look back at it, it's not really. It was a pretty bad loss for Alabama, and it could have been a loss that like held them out of the playoff. They're lucky that they did get into the playoff and they beat Oklahoma, and then they eventually moved on and you know just got embarrassed in the Rose Bowl to Indiana. But yeah, so some of those games that just pop out to me is they lost the first time to Oklahoma, that game, the SEC championship game to Georgia. I know they played like a FBS school too, and he threw 2 interceptions, and that didn't sit well with me. And then the Rose Bowl, he did end up getting injured, but it wasn't the best first half. It wasn't anything that screams that you should be leaving for the NFL. I think that he saw what the quarterback class looked like. He saw what the potentially next year could look like. There was also, I guess, some rumors going around. I don't know if it's ever been dispelled, but they were saying that Alabama was going in a different direction and other schools were offering him 5 million plus, maybe, way more than that to come be the starting quarterback at their school. And there's a quote out there that says he just wanted to be the Alabama starting quarterback. So very honorable of him. It seems like he's Crimson Tide for life. What does he have? He has the NFL caliber arm, a lot of strength behind it. He can really flick the ball across the field. He does have a quick compact release, and he's actually pretty mobile. He's not a run first quarterback. He's gonna keep his eyes downfield, but he can get out of the pocket. He can throw the ball on the run, or he can find the time to set his feet and make an accurate throw. He's a high level pedigree, so former 5-star recruit, developed inside a pro style system at Alabama. I know that doesn't say it all. I think JJ McCarthy was in a pro style offense at Michigan, and we know how that went. He does flash some high end skills, though. He can make those throws into the tight window. Can. Now, if he does it enough is the question. Anticipation of routes. So I would say rookie quarterbacks, young college football quarterbacks. I watch a lot of Michigan. It's even with Bryce Underwood this year. That anticipation of a receiver finishing their route and throwing the ball where they're going to end up, and not so much throwing the ball where they are in that exact moment, because that's how interceptions stack up. That's how contested passes end up happening. Uh, yeah, the anticipation's definitely there at time, and yeah, he's definitely a high upside. He's definitely somebody that can go right into a system. He's willing to learn. I do think that Ty Simpson is a quarterback that should probably sit behind somebody for a few years. So we've talked about it on this podcast before. I really love him going to the Rams. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not. Our last mock draft, we did like one of those like computerized ones where like you picked the 3 slots and then the computer did the rest. So we had the top 3 picks. One of them was the Jets, and Ty Simpson ended up in the second round. Well, if he's in the second round and you're the Jets, you're picking him. You know, you would love to get a rookie quarterback, especially the number 2 rookie quarterback in this draft. Do I want him to go to the Jets? Probably not. Not in their current situation. Aaron Glenn to me is not the guy to do it. The offense coordinator they just brought in, probably not the guy to do it either. So that could be pretty detrimental to Ty Simpson's career. Yeah, he is a system. Excuse me. Play action heavy offense, Shanahan style system. So you know Shanahan has their prints handprints all over the NFL. So you know if he ends up in that type of offense, but other than that, like I, I was thinking of some weaknesses, not fully proven. Obviously, only has the 1 year as a starter, limited elite production. Did do it for a few weeks in the SEC, but did he do it enough? It's like the age old like Hall of Fame conversation for the MLB. It's like were these guys peak players for long enough in their career, or are we just starting the Hall of Good conversation? That's what the QB class feels like this year. So you got Fernando Mendoza, doesn't really feel like a guy like a Cam Ward, doesn't feel like a Caleb Williams first overall pick that you get super excited about if you land him. But the Raiders will certainly they will go crazy about it just because they haven't had a quarterback in a while, and this is your national champion, this is your Heisman Trophy winner, so yeah, good for the Raiders. They'll get Fernando Mendoza. I'm not saying he's going to be bad in the NFL. I do think he could be like a middle tier guy. Who knows? Maybe he gets into that top 10 form. Maybe we keep mentioning Jared Goff. I like that comparison for Fernando Mendoza. But yeah, it's like the elite production. How has Ty Simpson been able to do it long enough? I really think another year as a starter in college football could have done him some good, but I also think a year or two behind a proven NFL starter could help him too. Learn the ropes, know the system, and learn the game speed too. Maybe you get him some reps in the second half. Maybe the preseason can help him, but whatever is going to get him to not have the happy feet once he gets on the field. He does have a big program background. Does like I said, flashes NFL throws. It's just the consistency, limited proven production. Hasn't had a full season of being the guy from start to finish. I don't know if there's too many people that last year in college football that were the guy start from finish. We loved Julian Love in the beginning of the season, and then I don't know, Big Ten championship game. He was okay. The playoff game didn't sit well with me, particularly. You know, we talk about Arch Manning, who had Heisman hopes coming into the season, but by the end of the year, he was playing some of his best football. But the beginning of the season, people were ready to write him off, which was interesting. Could say Fernando Mendoza, but again, it's tough. Mendoza was unbelievable in the playoff, and you know he led his team back in the Big Ten championship game. They were down 13-6, and they ended up winning against a tough, tough, tough Ohio State defense. But there were some games where I was like sitting there and I was like, was that really first overall pick good? I don't know. So I don't really know if there was the guy in college football this year. Uh, just doesn't have the high volume reps against elite defenses. I think that's my biggest flaw for him. He could use a few more years is probably my big thing. Accuracy is inconsistent too. Beginning of the season, I loved his accuracy. If that continued throughout this entire season, I'm probably sitting here saying, yeah, he's giving Fernando Mendoza a run for his money, but it didn't stick. And that's my issue. End of the season, that accuracy went. Can be late on reads. We saw that. I'll go back to Caleb Williams. We saw that hurt him during his rookie season in the NFL. And with faster defenses, less time in the pocket, it's just going to be times 10 for him. Mechanics can get sloppy too. And I know I said he can throw on the run, but is it always pretty? Probably not. So show that you can be that consistent guy, that accurate guy for a full season. But yeah, I like Ty Simpson as the second quarterback. Do I like him as a first round pick? It really depends on the team. Like I said, I could see him to the Rams. There were a few others. I have to look at the pecking order, but if he fell to the second round and he got picked by someone like the Jets or someone, I don't know, another team, I wouldn't be surprised either. Cardinals or something. So yeah, that's Ty Simpson. My last one is again, never look up his name. Have been reading about him since the college football season. Mansour Delaney. who is just ran at his pro day a 4.35 40-yard dash. He's 6 foot, 87 pounds. So let's talk about him because I think he's a little underrated this year. We're saying that the cornerback class is a little bit down. Not everybody is excited about this cornerback class. So he's elite quickness and short area burst. So explosive out of his breaks, can mirror slot receivers, but you can also throw him to the outside. He has that recovery speed. So that's what you look for in the NFL because it's so hard with some of these receivers. Are they hitting the outside or are they quickly going to the inside? Like, where are they going? And you got to be able to make up a space on some of these receivers. So he can closely cover underneath routes too, which is nice. He reads screens and short concepts, reacts quickly on the ball, shows good feel and zone coverage too. So not only can he can do both. So pretty much a complete cornerback in my opinion. You can throw him on an island on the outside. I know he's more of a slot guy, but you could do it if you wanted to. Scheme is going to be important, I think, for him, but you can also throw him in a zone package, and I think he'd be great. He's also physical. He's not afraid to tackle. Plays bigger than his size. Brings a lot of energy to a defense. So that's nice to have. Has special team value. So not only can you throw him in some bunch of defensive packages throughout, but put him on special teams too. Slot corner can rotate to safety at certain packages. Yeah, I think the some of the weaknesses for him, he's going to be limited to like a nickel role, so is that really worth the first round pick? Maybe this year with like how the cornerback position is for the NFL, but I don't know if it's ideal for wasting a pick. But a lot of people believe after his pro day where he ran a 4.35, he's going to jump into the top 10 pick because I think this NFL draft is pick the best guy on the board. Some people might say, all right, position, not too many guards, not too many cornerbacks, not too many this, that, whatever it may be. So they're going to go with the best overall in that select position. I don't think that's the best move. Mm, That's why I'm like, hey, like if you really looked at defense during free agency, but Sonny Styles is still on the board, you go with Sonny Styles every single time, 10 times out of 10. I don't know if every organization's thinking like that. Yeah, he's a first round watch. Let's go into my segments. Let's start to wrap this bad boy up. And I had multiple segments, and I'm looking to find it here on my notes. Yeah, let's start with first round watch. I think that's the best one to. Yeah, first round watch. Mine is Omar Cooper. Did anyone? I'm sure everybody watched the national championship game, but did a lot. If you watched Indiana football throughout the season, Omar Cooper was to me, he jumped off the film. Just everything he does, it's just efficient. But the national championship game, and I know there was like a lot of people that you had to focus on, and it can be tough because it's like this player. Indiana was this scrappy bunch all season. They didn't have the star players, at least in the beginning of the season. They eventually turned into guys that are like draft picks and all conference players. But I think that's coaching. That's a team that's willing to grow, that worked hard, but because when you looked at them heading into the season, you did not sit there and say this was the talented group that could sit around with like an Oregon type or Ohio State type. But man, just the same way I talk about D'Angelo Pons, should have man, I should have really talked about him during like players to watch. But I'm going to talk about someone else. It's the same thing with Omar Cooper because you can tell he was a coachable person, that he really turned into a very good receiver on a team that had 3 or 4 guys that could catch the ball, 3 or 4 NFL caliber players at the receiving corps. Charlie Becker's back next season for Indiana, but the other two, Elijah Surratt and Cooper. And Cooper's to me is just flying up the boards, and I could see him end up in the first round. He is somebody who can play on the outside. He has the size to be an outside threat. He has a strong frame. He can handle pass pressure. He has strong hands. He can really look the ball into his chest. Big catch radius. So like you throw the ball on the outside, he's catching it. You throw it above him, he's coming down with it. Wherever you throw it, he's finding a way to catch that ball. There's not going to be too many drops from Omar Cooper. But going back to the national championship game, this was a man who fought for every yard. he was hard to bring down. Miami's defense struggled to bring him down even. He just kept the chains going, and that is just so important. He's not a receiver, in my opinion, that's just going to fall to the ground. He's not going to run out of bounds. He's going to try to get the extra yards. He wants to make a difference on the field. And those are the things that do make a difference. And I think that's just the Kurt Sinetti identity of his teams is you play for the person next to you, you play for the name on the front of your jersey, not on the back. And these guys really respected everybody in the locker room. And because of that, they went on the field and they gave it their all for the person next to them and not so much for their own personal worth and value. His separation, so he's really smooth with his route running. If you watch his films, he can create quality separation. He can go on slants, digs, intermediate routes. He creates space without relying on speed. So obviously not going to be the fastest guy in this class. I don't think he has slow speed per se, but it's not something that is going to be the contributing factor for the reason why he's open. It's because he's just clean. It's somebody who watches a lot of film, has worked on his technique throughout the off season and in practice throughout the week, and he's gotten to where he needs to be. Like I said, strong hands, reliable at the catch point, wins 50-50 balls, and that's something that's a reason why we loved the Ohio State receivers all season, Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith. It's because they turned 50-50 balls into 80-20 balls, 70-30 maybe. And Omar Cooper's the same way, maybe to a smaller scale. We're not talking about him like the Carnell Tates of the world. Carnell Tate is somebody who can go in the top 10. Jeremiah Smith next season is going to be talked about like he's probably a top 5 receiver. Omar Cooper, we're saying, could be a first round pick. Wouldn't be surprised if he was a day 2 pick. That's an absolute steal, by the way, if somebody gets him in day 2. But yeah, he's another one that's like coming down with those 50-50 balls. He's a great third down receiver. I know there was a clip in Big Ten play. Don't remember who it was against. It was a crucial play. It was a back and forth game all afternoon, and he did a quick slant route, and I guess the two safeties bit, and he went right up the middle and scored a long touchdown. And that was on third down. I'll have to find the video and maybe play it during this, but he does move the sticks. He finds the soft spots in the coverage, plays with awareness, and he's just physical after the catch. That's my favorite thing about Omar Cooper is this man does not go down, breaks tackles, finishes runs, drops his shoulders, keeps his legs moving, just finds a way to get more yards. Player who not enough people are talking about. I should have went with D'Angelo Ponds. I do love D'Angelo Ponds, but I'll talk about Keontae Scott. Thing with Keontae Scott is he's quick. He's really quick, but he can find the football. He's another one who probably will be more of a nickel cornerback. So he's limited, but when we're talking like day 2 pick, I don't know if Scott's going to jump into the first round, but when we talk about day 2 pick, he's a great depth piece for your defense. And once you start getting to day 2, maybe past that second round, you start going into more of the third, fourth round. You are trying. You're not necessarily. Everybody would love to find the Tom Brady's of the world, where like 6th round Pro Bowl quarterback, but it's just not realistic. And that's when you start to find people who can contribute to your team, can be those depth pieces. Maybe aren't going to be yearly Pro Bowlers, but they're going to make a difference on Sunday. And that's what I've been feeling like with Keontae Scott. I've liked him since Miami's been playing in the fall. I knew he was going to be a good player, and yeah, he's somebody I don't think a lot of people are or enough people are talking about. Mansour Delaney, I said he could be a nickel corner. I originally said he should be on the outside or the nickel. He might get limited. That was a mistake on my part. I think he could be on the outside. I was just looking through some of his clips as I was talking, and I was like, yeah, he's probably man-to-man cornerback. Yeah. So if I had to guess now, he's going to be the first cornerback off the board. Definitely the first cornerback off the board. There's too many injury problems with, who's number 2, and then there's just a big dip after you get through the first 3 cornerbacks. I think at all points lean towards Delaney being that guy. But yeah, that's the show. Wrapping up just as my computer's dying, so perfect timing. But expect this to continue. I really, draft day, like I said, that's for the real football fans because these are the guys following those pieces that could make instant changes to your favorite team. So if your team as a whole right now after free agency, I'm sure the scouts are out there. They're looking to make the corrections as soon as possible through this NFL draft. And, just finding the the needle in the haystack, finding that steal. I think that's what makes it fun too, because everybody loves the first round. Everybody likes to see that premier talented guy that your team gets in the first round. But it's also fun trying to get steals later on and sleepers and all that. So yeah, we're going to continue. It's draft season. We have another few weeks of it. It should be a good one. Follow along at Further Review on Instagram. We're also at Further Review on YouTube. There should be more individual scouting reports coming your way. Like I said, I'm going to try to do 4 to 6 a week. And also, I'm going to implement segments, and some of the longer episodes, I'm going to talk college football season, because there's a lot I want to talk about heading into the fall, and college football season is where I thrive. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed today's episode. We'll catch you soon. Give us your thoughts in the comment. Don't forget to get involved, and happy draft season. Catch you soon.